The great commander Gaius, the optional boss, is probably best known for being one of the hardest bosses in Elden Ring. And when you defeat him, you can make your way to the Erdtree Chalice and obtain a bunch of Erdtree fragments. But even though he carries quite a small role during your time in the Lands of Shadow, prior to the events we play, he was someone of great notoriety and played a major role in Messmer's purging of the Land of Shadows, and was also a friend, a rival, and a teacher. All that, and unlike so many characters in Elden Ring, he almost joined the pantheon of the very few who have their happily ever after. It's a short story tucked away, completely optional, but I feel is one worth telling. Hi, my name is Moody, and this is the Game Den. When you first see Commander Gaius, it doesn't take long to notice his insignia and the power he possesses, recognized for its rich deep purples, for he was not only a warrior, but gravity manipulation sorcerer. Before the shattering and before the purging of the realm of shadows, he was a student, but not just any student. At the top of his class, a most senior disciple of the same Alabaster Lord, who taught none other than the one day to be Star Scourge Radahn. During their studies, the two would have become acquainted with one another, and soon after, rivalry had begun. Not with malice, it was formed by their acknowledgement of each other's strength and ability. This most likely led to numerous bouts. Two great warriors with a keen sense of learning techniques beyond just brute strength allowed them to sharpen their blades and hone their skills against each other. What started as rivals grew into a stronger bond and finally bloomed into friendship. You can find evidence of this friendship in the description of the Blades of Stone. Gaius and Radahn were good rivals in their youth, and this sorcery is a product of their friendly competition, a spell formed from a friendship that respected each other and tested each other's skill. You can imagine this spell was born from numerous duels and discussion amongst the two as they fine-tuned the ability to eventually what we have now. Also notice how in both their fights you can still see them using the very same technique till now, putting it to good use. Also, just to point out how this is most likely not the only spell or technique the two have spent time creating together. Both Radahn and Gaius use another move that is practically identical to each other, the spinning gravity thrust. In both their boss battles, you'll catch them using this spell. Once Commander Gaius reaches half his life, he will turn to his gravity spell, which he will float to the sky and activate a spiraling slam, which pulls the blade-like rocks to rise to the surface for further damage. This is the same move Consort Radahn greets most Tarnish at the beginning of their battle. I also wanted to point a small detail. Commander Gaius uses the move only after he sustained enough damage, unleashing the attack only in his semi-second phase. Meanwhile, it is the first move that Radahn does the moment you enter the ring. This shows the ultimate difference in their actual strength as warriors, being one uses the spell as a finishing move, and the other just starts with it. But that solidifies even though in strength they are miles apart. They share the same technique they honed under the Alabaster Lord, further demonstrating the true gravity of their friendship was strong enough to become brothers in arms. Why support Messmer? Why take part in the Purge and join in a dark crusade and face eternal damnation? Maybe our commander had no say in the matter, and unfortunate for him, as a soldier, he would have to follow orders even into damnation, on command and command alone. Both were as elder brothers to the lion, and both were cursed from birth In spite of, or perhaps because of this very reason, Gaius was both Mesmer's friend, leader of his men. A brotherhood bound through Radahn had in some way built a brotherhood with Mesmer, and maybe like his younger brother, a mutual respect of skill as a warrior and leader made them fast friends. And with that warrior skill, I could imagine it didn't take long for Gaius to find himself anointed a commander of Mesmer's flame. But both cursed from birth. What could they mean by that? For you see, Gaius was an Albinauric, are life forms made by human hands. Thus, many believe them to live impure lives untouched by the Erdtree's grace. A second-class citizen, despised and hated, enslaved, and it's easy to imagine how he and Mesmer would be considered cursed at birth, something they would build a stronger friendship with, and with that bond, and shunned from the light of the Erdtree's grace, Gaius would take the role of commander and lead Mesmer's men into a war unseen, one that could never be put into song, a purge without grace or honor, the tyranny of Mesmer's flame. And in time, they would fulfill their role, and all the lands would be purged into a black soot. His final role would be guardian of the Erdtree chalice, a role he would uphold 1,000,000 times over. Proof of his victory would decorate the fields he fought on, an insurmountable amount of armor and swords of fallen foes. The conflict slowed, the battlefield quieted, the challengers ceased. It was over. They had accomplished what they were damned to do, and once they were done, all that was left for them now was to live in shadow for the rest of eternity. Some time passes, but that is when you arrive tarnished. He would see yet another challenger and do what he had done so many times before, ride into battle to strike thee down, just like he'd done so many times before. But unfortunate for him, he did not know he was riding into his final showdown. He would put on a magnificent fight. Certainly, someone admired by the demigod brothers would do no less. But after a hard-fought battle, Commander Gaius on this day would fall and find his final resting place would be amongst the many he had slain before. But there is one more chapter in this story. Just beyond the battle, just before the chalice, lies a little shack, aptly named the Albinauric Shack. Nothing amazing, but a simple place to call home. The Commander Gaius's home. He and his trusty boar would be banished to an eternity in shadow, but after all the warring and battling, somehow they managed to make a home, a quiet, tranquil place they could call their own. As soon as you make that revelation, you are ambushed by, of all things, an Albinauric woman atop her steed, a direwolf. But no matter, after fighting a behemoth of a warrior, all that can be said is, she is no Commander Gaius. You make quick work of her and cut her down. You make your way to collect the items she has dropped and return to surveying the shack like clockwork. But oddly, she possesses a strangely important item. Amongst her possessions was a bow, but what caught your eye was the boots. The boots belonging to none other than but Commander Gaius. Strange, as Albinaurics would never need boots, but the item description says, black iron greaves made for Commander Gaius. A cruel joke, for he could not wear them. Riding atop the boar he called his other half, Gaius was in fact a warrior of Albinauric extraction. It may be a cruel joke, but it was made nonetheless, which takes effort, being that they are genuine working griefs that the Tarnish can use. The very fact that he kept them meant that the greaves were a valuable gift to him. Something during better days the commander and the rest of his men must have laughed about, precious enough to be a memory, a memento. But why would an Albinauric woman be holding these? That's when my heart sank. We had slayed his love, without a thought, driven a blade through her. Had I just not gone through this place, things would be different. But now, it's too late. That morning, just before our arrival, for the two Albinaurics, it was like any other beautiful morning. Like the many more to come. That was until you came along. Thank you for listening. I hope you enjoyed the video. The commander was such a challenge for me. It took numerous amounts of tries to defeat him, and I was through the roof when I did. But I never thought FromSoft would catch us off guard like this. How they took us from such a high and then to hit us with such a low was truly an unforgettable experience. I couldn't wait to share it with you guys. Well, thanks for sticking around. I'm going to be making more Elden Ring videos in the future, but I also want to try some other stuff as well. So, stay tuned and hope to have you guys stick around. My name is Moody, and this is the Game Den. Take care.